This podcast is sponsored by Joy Greenberg, independent wellness advocate for doTERRA products. Hey, Allison, I have a riddle for you.
All right.
What is made up of wild orange, clove bud, cinnamon bark, eucalyptus leaf, and rosemary leaf essential oils and used all over by schools and families?
On Guard essential oil.
You are correct.
Oh. On Guard is chemical-free and natural and supports our immune system and kills off harmful bacteria and viruses.
Listeners of this podcast who sign up for a no-obligation wholesale account through Joy will receive a free beginner's kit of lemon, lavender, and peppermint, along with a list of 101 uses. But remember, you have to sign up through Joy. She's our sponsor. So go to our website, howpreschoolteachersdoit.com, click on Sponsor Offers, and follow the simple instructions on our site. So easy, right, Allison?
It is.
And now let's get to today's episode. Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Allison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. It must be Monday morning. You know how I know, Allison?
How do you know?
Because we're back.
Nice.
Yes. Must be Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. We hope you have a great week.
Monday.
And we're really happy that you start out your week listening to us. We on this episode are going to try and help out those of you who teach and care or caregivers to young children today. We are going to talk about the things that would be nice for caregivers to know in order to best respond to the children in their care. Pretty much, I think every system has an intake form, right, Allison?
Yeah.
Every school, every system has something families fill out, and they may ask some questions about what goes on with your child. I have found a lot of those forms ask questions like, what does your child call it when they have to go to the bathroom? That's a really important thing for me to know.
It is. Well, I think some of these forms are just a little outdated, some of them.
Tiny bit.
Yeah. But we do need to know about the child and their family, I think, not just their child, before they come to school.
Well, I think that's the outdated part of it. I think we didn't always know the importance of knowing things about the family and the family culture and the family structure.
It's usually just about the child. And it's like questions like you said, like, what do they call the bathroom? And do they sleep well at night? And like, I can't think of other ones that are on there, but I think it's important to know about the family too. I want to know about the child that's going to be in my class, but I want to know about your family and your culture and who do you live with and like things like that too.
Yes. So there are some things that it would really help us to understand about the children. Like Allison just said, we need to know who's living in the home.
Yeah.
Right. And there are background things that are helpful too. Even something like, does anyone who lives in the home travel for business?
Yes.
I would love to know that because it can explain behavior. Yeah. It can explain behavior. Yeah. How many times has this child moved? How many different schools has this child been to?
Right.
That sort of thing is really helpful in understanding the child's actions and reactions. We can always tell, I can always tell, and I'm sure Allison, you'll talk about this too. I can always tell when a child's behavior is a little off.
Yes. But sometimes it surprises me how the parent doesn't tell me changes that have happened outside of school until I approach them and say, hey, I have noticed that so-and-so is not happy this week. They're not themselves. They seem more upset. They seem more frustrated. And then they say, oh, well, dad's on business trip.
Right.
Tell me that tell me that first. Tell me that before they go on the business trip, or in the beginning of the school year. My husband travels a lot for work. I'll let you know when he's not home. That helps me a lot. And I had this conversation with a parent last year. She was like, oh, I think she's upset because I've been away a lot. I didn't know you were away a lot. Now that I know, there are things I can maybe do to help her. The conversation with the child changes because now I know why.
Also, if you knew that in the beginning,
Yeah.
you may have been able to mitigate some of those behaviors.
Yes. Instead of letting it go for like a day and be like, all right, she had an off day. And then the next day be like, oh, she's still off. Now I'm questioning what's going on. And I could have just maybe even talked about it before mom went away, and the child would have felt a little more secure.
Yes. I think it's really important to know that sort of thing. I think there are things that may be a little more obvious that people don't want to talk about too. It's really helpful when we know if parents are separated or divorced. And honestly, not everybody wants to talk about that sort of thing, especially if it's fresh. It's helpful to know if there's been a family member who has left the home for reasons other than divorce.
Yes.
Even if, let's say, a grandparent or a cousin or an aunt or uncle was living with you for a while and had the great good fortune of being able to move out on their own. That's a happy thing,
right.
But it's a hard thing for the child.
Right, because they don't understand why they're suddenly not there. And they're missing them. And I could come over into the school environment that they just miss this one person that's still in their lives, but not in their lives in the same manner that they were before.
Right.
I think also knowing if one of the parents is like, say, in the military where they're going to be gone for very long stretches of time, that I think I need to know that because that could really affect them. It's a long time that people are gone when they're in the military.
I'd even like to know if that's potential. Even if both family members are still there, is it potential? Do you and your family talk about the fact that one of you could be deployed?
Right.
Because if you're talking about it in the household, it affects your child.
True. Yeah.
I would also like to know things like just simple things like what are the after school activities that your child goes to and when?
Yeah.
How often does your child get to experience a play date? Because it isn't as common as it used to be with people working long hours. I'd like to know what you all do for a living.
Yeah.
And what your work hours are. Because then I can speak directly to the child about what goes on in their particular family and individualize that talk a little bit.
Right. And I very rarely know what a parent does for a living.
Really? I used to have that on intake forms. I used to have that on the form that they would put down what they do and where they work. But I know not every place does because when I ask teachers, when I ask teachers, well, what does that what does the family do? And they don't know. That's a thing. There are also other situations, tough situations. When you adopt a child, I know they are totally and fully your child, and I completely respect that. It helps me to know if that child was in the foster care system before you adopted them.
Yeah.
And I understand that people sometimes don't want to talk about these things or they don't want to talk about intensely personal things, but it enables me to tailor your child's day to your child.
Right. And I know, it's hard. If you're a divorced person or whatever it is, you get a lot of judgment from the outside world. I don't do that. I'm thinking of it specifically, how is this going to affect the child? I'm not going to judge you for whatever your life is, but I think people, that's why they don't want to share it, is they're afraid that there's going to be a stigma or something. And it's just, that's not the case.
I don't think that's the case so much with divorce anymore. I mean, my goodness, what's the statistics
not anymore
now? But it used to be. It used to be people didn't want to talk about it. And for some people, that can still be a generational thing that was passed on from generation to generation. I think, whatever it is that you're concerned that we're going to judge, I think two things has to happen. First, families need to know that they're putting their child in a place where things are kept confidential. we can't allow people to go and tell their coworkers or other families or whatever. And if you're running a school and that's happening, if your staff is keeping things confidential, then you need to reevaluate your staffing.
Right.
I think we also need people to know, not only am I going to keep it confidential, but I'm not going to judge you.
Right.
Unfortunately, people always have bias.
Yeah.
And one of the things that schools need to work on is making professionals aware that you come to the table with bias that cannot play itself out. We have another episode we did in the past about bias, so we're not going to dive deeply into that. I'm just going to say people need to become aware that their biases are playing out in a way that hurts other people.
Yeah.
It hurts people if I can't be neutral about their situation and non-judgmental, because then they feel like they can't tell me things, and who gets hurt? The child.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. What are some other things? Think about your class, Allison. What are some other things you wish you knew about your students?
Well, I don't know if we mentioned this already. We may have. If you're moving or just moved into the area.
Yeah, we did mention that.
Let me know.
But say it again, because I moved when I was a kid and I know how traumatic that is.
Yeah. It's very traumatic. And there's a little girl in my class now that moved over the weekend, but what I didn't realize, I knew they were new in the district, but I didn't realize until one day I asked the mom, like, hey, she was really tired today. And she goes, we're driving 4 hours a day, because they weren't fully moved in yet. So they were driving back and forth back to their home, which was like in the middle of the state. And I'm in the northern part of the state. And with the traffic and everything, it was like 2 hours a day for the children and 4 hours for her, because her commute, she had to go back down there for work. And I was like, oh, I just wish I knew that. I thought they had already moved when it was the first day of school, because everybody told me that they were new to the district. They just moved here, but they actually weren't moved yet. So it made me be like, oh, okay, that makes so much more sense now. Now I understand why she's tired. You know what I mean? Like, that's exhausting. Now I understand why she gets a little frustrated, because that's a lot. It's a lot,
Yeah.
And the transition was hard for the little girl. So I didn't realize that. So if anything like that, even if it's like something unusual, like like that, I would have loved to know that, I
would also like to know really simple things. Really simple things like, what's your child's favorite TV show? I can talk to them about that.
Yes.
What's your child's favorite song, favorite book, some favorite activities that I can use to help attach them to the classroom when they arrive every day?
What do you do at home as a family?
Right. What do you like to do together?
Yeah, anything that I could try to form some sort of conversation and relationship with this child. If your child's upset, and I know that they like a certain show like Paw Patrol or whatever it may be, whatever's popular now, I can now talk about that show with the child, and it usually gets their mind off of things, and it makes them happier. And then the next day when they're upset to go to school, they know at least one conversation that they could have with you or another child, because I don't know. I think like even little itty bitty things like that.
Yeah, I like things that seem less significant but are significant to the child.
Yeah. Yeah. I usually ask at the meet and greet, have they been in school before?
Mm-hmm.
Because that could tell you a lot. Have they been in school before? Because I usually get the kids that it's their very first time in my school, but that doesn't mean they weren't at a preschool or childcare center before that.
I'd also like to know if they were not in a school setting, did they have a babysitter?
Right.
Did they stay with other family members? What was the arrangement?
What was the arrangements?
Uh-huh. Just anything that you could think of to help us understand your family. Things even like, what holidays do you emphasize in your family and which ones don't you?
Right.
How does your family celebrate birthdays? That tells me how significant it is. And I don't have to make it so significant. For some cultures, it's not so significant. And for others, it is.
It is, yeah.
Right? I'd like to know some about your culture.
Oh, I love to learn about the cultures.
Yeah.
I think because I tend to like invite the parents in, especially like, hey, especially if you have some big holiday that is happening or cultural event that is happening, let me know. So I would love to have parents in to talk about it, grandparents. You know what I mean? Because I want to learn all about your child and what is significant to them. And culture is like a huge part of it.
Yeah. I would even like to know something like, do you go to a religious service every week or not?
Yeah.
Right. Who is your child's community is probably a better question. Who's your community?
Yeah.
Just so that I can talk to your child about their life outside my classroom. Right. No other reason.
Yeah. Right.
Right? Just so I could say to your child something even about dance lessons or anything that will connect
soccer.
us.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything.
Right.
I'd like to know, like, is there another language being spoken at home?
That's a great question too. And it doesn't have to be. Some people, like I know of a family where the grandparents lived in the house, spoke a different language primarily, but the family didn't report that English wasn't their first language because, in fact, it was the first language for the parents and the child. But the grandparents are living there speaking another language. That would be really helpful for me to know. I think
it doesn't have to be that the child knows the language, but it's being spoken in the home.
Correct.
So yeah.
I think, folks, you need to sit down and think to yourself, what is it that makes my child that person?
Right.
What are the experiences my child has had that have formed my child to be the person he or she is today? And I need to communicate all of that as much as I can to the people who are taking care of my child because it'll just help them connect better.
Right.
We're at like 15 minutes, of course, Allison, and we have sort of a special guest star today who's sitting here just waiting for her turn to talk on the microphone. But I have to do a tiny little, who is this person before we let her speak.
Yeah.
So there was an episode, oh my gosh, it must be months ago already, where, we did our thing at the end where we're always begging for you to rate us 5 stars and to review us. And I said, I made a joke, a very true joke. I said, my son's girlfriend, her name is Paige, that when she wants something, she will whisper it to us. She wanted to go eat at the deli, and all we hear from the backseat of the car is, I hope you all can hear this in the microphone, all we hear from the backseat of the car is, deli, being whispered. So I said that we were recording this podcast today. We were at dinner last night and Paige was with us and I said we were recording and we sort of laughed about her whispering things and I said, Paige, we'll put you on the podcast to do it live. So here she is. Paige, say hello, not whispering to everybody. Say hello.
Hi.
Can you hear her, Allison?
I can. Hi, Paige.
She says hi. I'm wearing the headphones, so she can't hear you.
Okay, yeah.
But she says hi. And what we're going to do is we're going to ask Paige to do the thing that she does so well, which is whisper so that you think you're getting a subliminal message. Paige, tell the people what to do.
Subscribe.
Could you hear her, Allison?
I could hear her, yeah.
She's cracking up. She could hear. Okay.
5 stars.
Do it again, Paige.
5 stars.
5 stars, she said. 5 stars.
Comment.
Yeah, she's telling you to do all sorts of things. So that's, Paige doing that thing that she does where honestly, Allison, we'll be sitting together and I'll be like, did anybody else hear that? And all of a sudden, I want to eat a deli sandwich. So thank you, Paige, for doing your actual whispering.
Of course.
Yeah. Paige has actually come to me when I've gone to clients. She's a great sport. She wanted to come and see what I did, and she came with me and was rearranging classroom furniture.
Oh, cool.
Isn't that cool? She was rearranging furniture with me, and she had the great experience of watching children return to a classroom and see their furniture moved all around. Right? So come here, Paige, come by the microphone again. People, we talk about things like moving furniture around and how the impact things have in classrooms and stuff. When the teachers were changing their environment a little bit, just talk about what the reaction of the children were.
When they walked in, they were just like, oh my God, this is so cute. And I just can't believe it. And then they were playing with things that they haven't even seen.
Yeah. And and Paige is like, right? And Paige is like an innocent bystander. So it's not just me or just Allison saying, this really works with kids. Now we have Paige, who actually is in her last semester of college as a marketing major. And she noticed the difference in behavior. I know.
Yeah, that's great.
So thank you for participating.
You're welcome.
You're welcome on the podcast
anytime.
Yeah.